Hey, good morning to those of you out in the West Coast, all the way out in the Pacific Ocean, Hawaii. I know Hawaii shows up every day. I really appreciate that. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Somebody give me just an audio visual check. I'm looking at my live, and I just want to make sure it's showing up. Like I can see people in the chat, but I can't see a count on LinkedIn. But I want to know it's good to go, so I can just start rocking and rolling. We got a lot to cover today. I'm pretty excited about it. I did want to let you know that as you're moving forward, if you have questions for me or particular topics you want to drive into, let me know, because I've been getting some of these requests on a regular basis, and I love it because I'm able to tweak the training we do at noon to still stick with our core mission of the type of training we want to deliver, but hitting people's particular challenges. And so if you've got challenges like that, let me know. Reach out to me, direct message me and say, hey, can you talk about this? As long as you stick pretty much in the sales part of government contracting, right? Don't ask me to talk about the FAR because somebody else talks better about that. But the sales arena, right? Understanding that. If you got a question, let me know. Thank you to those of you. Let me know that we're good. 5x5 there, I hear. We're going to get rocking and rolling here in just a second. I'm going to turn off my little stream bar across the bottom. Okay, and I want to line up, I'm sharing a couple of screens, a lot of screens today, so I want to line those up. Okay, so let's get started. People, you probably have already heard this 100 times, right? People do business with those they know, like, and trust. And in today's training, I'm going to teach you how to get started with that process at DHS, Department of Homeland Security, by finding the right people to build your target list of people that you want to reach out to, so your contacts. That's what we're going to cover today. If you don't know who I am, I'm Neil McDonnell. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to my daily LinkedIn Live federal sales training, where I teach processes and procedures for you to achieve success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. A process is following the steps from A to Z, and when we follow that process, we get predictable results, repeatable and predictable results, right? And that's what I want for you. Before we get too far, help me and help buyers remember who you are. Put your company name, your core competencies into the chat. Make it easy for people to remember who you are by just using 2 or 3 keywords for your core competency. And don't ever feel like you've done this too much, right? Every time you come to my training, every time you come to somebody else's training, or you go to an event, be loud and proud about who your company is and what your core competency is, using 2 or 3 words. Also, remember, this is a community, so engage in the community, in the chat. I'm going to ask you to engage with me as I'm going along in the training. I'll ask you to put certain things in the chat to let me know that you're tracking on what I'm teaching. But also, I want you to connect with each other. This is a GovCon community. So the people in here are one way or another connected to government contracting in the federal market. You can meet people to reach out to. I'm going to share a story tomorrow, but I just, right before this, I just got an email of somebody who just had, I think, like 5 connections they're making. And this was a huge deal. And I want you to be able to make those same connections in this community. As we go along, chat about what you're hearing me talk about, but also feel free to chat. As long as you're chatting in a good community way, chat in there, introduce yourself, continue the dialogue in there, and make this your community. I consider it like a networking community, if you will. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen for most of today, which is, if this is your first time, 2 things. That's unusual. Usually I just talk. And the second thing is I move at a fire hose pace. I'm going to give you a fire hose worth of information. You can come back and rewatch it, or you can write down right now a couple of tips. I want you to be focused on what you're hearing from me today, writing down the nuggets of wisdom, right, that you get from me, or the good tips on how to do your job. This advice that I'm giving you is how I do my job when I'm helping people do stuff. So let me get in here, share my screen. We're going to get rocking and rolling. One thing, just letting everybody know, is that I'm completely blind now to the chat. When I share my screen, I can't see the other portion of the chat. So just keep that in mind. Please keep engaging. I did want to share just quickly before I get started with today's training on how to get into DHS and begin to talk with buyers. I wanted to let you know that on the GovCon Chamber page, we have these homework series pages, and this one's on Department of Homeland Security. So go check that out. All sorts of good information. We we try to update it on a regular basis, but you'll find OSDBUs and small business specialists, et cetera. Their information's in there. And the link is govconchamber/dhs.com/DHS. So you can see that there. Gus is putting it into the chat. Okay, so we've got 20 minutes, maybe 25 if I stretch it to the bottom of the hour on a lot of content here. And I wanted to begin with, thinking about why are we doing this? Why are we talking about how do I get into DHS and begin to talk with buyers? Well, it's all just part of business development and capture, right? Proposal writing. Those three combined make sales in the federal space. And so all three of those need us to be talking to somebody. We need to be in the program office door, the contracting officer's doors, to be able to learn about the agency more, to learn about opportunities more, and to learn about opportunities in general, right, at all. And so it all begins with visibility. And I'm going to come back in a second, but I love reverse engineering. How do you get a sale? If you look at the bottom right side of the screen, you'll see the bottom of the circle here says, in order to get predictable and repeatable results, sales, you must write proposals, not just any kind of proposals, but winning proposals. Winning proposals means when the customer has it in their hand, they feel horrible if they didn't award it to you. They think that you absolutely should have won it, but maybe you had somebody else in there who also had a winning proposal. Make sense? Before you can write winning proposals, though, you must have a pipeline full of slam dunk opportunities. And slam dunk opportunities just means it's in your sweet spot. If you're a capture cyber company, don't be writing to the cloud. Write to cyber opportunities, fill your pipeline with cyber. In order to have slam dunk opportunities, you must have relationships, right? Coming around to the left side of that circle, you must have relationships, strategic relationships and solid relationships with teammates and buyers. This is how you learn things about the agency, the organization, their needs, as well as opportunities, why that opportunity is being let now, what are they trying to accomplish with it, things like that. That all comes from having relationships, but you can't have relationships unless you're having meetings with buyers and for outreach and then targeting, who to reach out to and develop relationships, right? And that all begins with visibility. In today's training, the reason I'm showing you the 7-step process, today's training is really driving into visibility and targeting, right? And heavily on targeting. How do we find the right people at DHS? But understanding that they're going to be looking at us as well. And so we want to be visible. We want to look good and we want to be findable to them. And then we want to begin to do a little bit of outreach. And that's what I mean about talking to buyers. And I'll show you a little bit on that. But the primary effort of today's training is to help you do targeting. How do you find people? So we're going to dive into that, beginning with, hey, somebody else is live. Are you kidding me? You just took me to his live. I don't want his live. I want my live. Okay, so this DHS, you got to love live training. It really is live. Almost took us into, how to bake a cake training. So this post, if you haven't seen it before, I put it out this morning, and it's DHS. And what I want to point out is before you can start doing targeting, you must understand the organization that you're going into. So let me just zoom this in. So the first thing I want you to do when you think about targeting DHS or Homeland Security here is build an org chart of this agency, this department. And when you do, it does a couple of things. First, it helps you really understand the agency and maybe how it's laid out. And then you can begin to do little X's and circles. X's mean I don't really need to go into the Office of Legislative Affairs. Circles will be, I want to go into Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and U.S. Custom and Border Protection. Today, I'm going to use an example, obviously DHS, but I'm going to use an example of cyber. I want to find cyber people. And so when you build something like this, you can decide where in DHS do I want to go further initially, right? Eventually, you want to own that customer completely. Owning meaning you know them. But I'm going to start with FEMA today. And one of the things you can see, in today's post is I put all the different agencies, components within DHS in here with links to their LinkedIn page. What I'm trying to do is to go into LinkedIn and find people, right? When you go to the website, you're going to find just a small amount of people on the website. When you go to LinkedIn, you'll find almost everybody who works at Homeland Security. And I'll show you a little bit as we go forward. So I'm going to go into FEMA. And before I go in there, I just want to show you that I believe you. You're doing a live. Let me close you. Apparently a lot of us are doing lives. So here I did a post actually a few months back that you might find valuable, and you can read this later, but this is FEMA. And by the way, if you don't know how to find posts that I've done, you can go in and search FEMA Neil McDonnell, and instantly you'll find this post that I'm talking about, right? That's one way to find it. But I want to come down here. This is a great post that I did, a lot of useful information, but I wanted to come down because I did the same thing on this one, where I went into a single agency within Homeland Security. This one's called FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency or Administration. Can't remember which one it is. But anyways, in here I have their org chart, and I can begin to understand how are these guys lined up? Who might I want to talk to out there? And by having this, it drives me forward. You can see on this org chart, we took the time to put a little LinkedIn icon on every person in here. So these are all the leaders of all these different offices within FEMA. We put LinkedIn logos wherever somebody had a profile. And actually, if you download this yourself, you'll find that you can just click on it and go right to their thing. So it's not just that we're telling you Justin, has a LinkedIn profile. We're saying click on it, it takes you there. We really try to provide you value. So hopefully you'll download that and find it helpful. But remember, I just looked at DHS, had an org chart. I understand the department. Now I'm looking at FEMA, an agency, and I'm understanding the org chart. I'm saying, okay, I want to go into FEMA. How do I find people who are responsible in one way or another for cyber? This list here is good for me to say, I want to go find the CIO, right? And so I can go in and talk to these people and begin to meet them, but that doesn't tell me 100 people. And when I do targeting, I don't want 2 or 3 names. I want 100 plus names. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, just tracking my time to see how I'm doing there. So I said going into FEMA. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into FEMA's page itself. And I just want to open that as another tab. By the way, in the chat, if it's making sense what I'm talking about understanding the agencies through an org chart, go ahead and put org charts rock in the chat. Let me know you understand the value of beginning your targeting exercise by understanding the organization of the agency you're trying to reach out to, which will then give you more insight into how do I find people who are working at that office. Org charts rock. All right, so this, I'm staying within LinkedIn. By the way, if you don't know this, I have a LinkedIn course. So if you'd like to take a look at our course, you can go to bdinthebox.com/LinkedIn, and Gus can put a link in the chat. But I have a course that tells you how to do what I'm doing. So I'm showing you here for sure. But if you want a course, a full out course on how to rock LinkedIn, I've got that available. So I'm in FEMA's LinkedIn page. FEMA's got a website, right? But here they have a presence on LinkedIn, and I can see that there's 16,000 people who say they're employees at FEMA. The reason I said people who are employees is because some of these people might not have updated their LinkedIn profile and they're just not there anymore. But I want to show you 2 different ways that I search for people that I might want to contact at FEMA so that you can then do the same exercise yourself. Excuse me. So the first thing I do, like you can see here, I've already got 20 connections. It tells me down here. Those are first connections. If I'm really trying to sell to FEMA, then I'm going to be engaging with them. And I'll show you more in a minute on how I do that. But I wanted to show you from a company page. That's what this is called. And this is on the free version of LinkedIn, the free or the business version of LinkedIn. You can see who the people are. And I'm going to click right here on people. When I do, it brings all these people up, and there's all sorts of ways to look at it, right? I'm not going to browse. It's too much. Even filtering by location, it's not totally what I want. But remember, I said I want to find cyber. So I'm just going to type in cyber. I can try cybersecurity, cyber, but I'm going to start with cyber and see what I get. And I get 240 employees. When I get this list, it's the start of my activity on targeting. I want to put this effort in perspective for you. If I was going into a new agency, I would try to give myself a week or 2 to build a targeting list. Not 20 or 30 minutes, right? So don't look at this as a one-day exercise. Look at this targeting list as taking you more than one day, and you will begin to take the time to just relax and look at the profile. So I'm going to look at these and scroll down a little bit. Like I might say even filter more for a second, right? Right here it says Greater Atlantic Area. All I did was filter those results, 240 people, down to the 16 that are in Atlanta, because maybe for some reason I know in FEMA, I want to get down there. So as I'm looking, I can see if there's anybody related to what I want down there. And you're looking at the titles, hopefully with me. And you can see there's nobody down there, right? There must be a small office, but it's not significant enough for me. So I'm going to get rid of the greater Atlantic. And it just tells me, all right, even though I'm in Atlanta, I want to look at everywhere and see who I can see. And so then you just browse this, right? I'm not going to browse it all completely, but here, this person's title catches me right away. Cybersecurity lead, that person's going to go into my list. And here's how I do it, by the way. I will not click on Brittany's profile. I don't want to go deeper at the moment. I'm just going to write her name down really quick. I might do something like this where I right click and I say open in a new tab, right? But I won't look at it. I'll come back and look at a whole bunch of open tabs and begin to find the ones that I like. Right now, I'm trying to filter it by just their title. And this goes back, by the way, when I tell you, you want to make your profile so you are findable and attractive. If I look at Kevin or Brittany and I say, are they findable? Yes, I type cyber, I found them. So now I say, are their profiles attractive to me based on their titles? That's all I can see for them at the moment. And so cybersecurity professional, cybersecurity lead, yes, those are attractive because I'm like, all right, they're still there. Like this analyst, I don't know what his role is, but I would probably say, no, not so much. And even Kevin, I'm like, you know what? It just says cybersecurity professional. I don't know what that is yet. I don't need to get him. First, I'm going to go through the 200 names and see if I find a whole bunch that I like. Then I'll do a second pass. And so as I continue coming down, you can see me right away. I see this US European command. And I think to myself, let me go filter this into the United States, right? And so, and in fact, just to make it easier on myself, I'm going to go down to Washington, D.C., because that's much more than Atlanta, and it makes the browsing easier. So as I come down, it's quicker for me to see who's here. And as you can see the different titles, like here's another one. And so I might say, hey, let's open him in a new tab. And I have a mouse that I can one click it open. And so I will come back. So you can see what I'm doing as I'm coming down. Some of these people, like they're in with DHS, but they're somewhere else, right? So I might go look at Constance's profile to see what's her connection in there. Maybe I can fit. But this is the first way I wanted to show you. How can you find names and begin to identify people that you can reach out to? Remember, we're talking about a bell curve. If you call 100 people, and if you haven't seen my bell curve, I have other training on it, but a bell curve means if you call 100 people, 50 won't talk to you. 50 won't be the right people. That's why I want you to build a list of 100 or more people so that you can get to the people who will talk to you. And going through this list, I would find out which ones of these people seem like they're a fit for me. And if I have 100, I'll stop and I'll decide how to move forward. If I don't, I'll do different ways of doing search. But that search, just to remind you, was only off of FEMA's page here, right? If I just really quickly show you the steps here, I land on FEMA's page and I see that they've got a bunch of people, right? I click on the people tab. And then the way I filtered it down is I said, I want to find people with cyber. And I typed in cyber and my list became 16,000 people, went down to 239 people, right? And I can filter it a little more like you saw me do. But that is one way to do it when you're on the free version. And let me show you how to do it on Sales Navigator, the paid version of LinkedIn. And this one's really helpful for me. Like you can see right here on the home page, I'm tracking my priority accounts, and I'm going to show you how to do FEMA right through here in a second. But right here, I can see things. If I'm following those 100 people or 50 of the people I really like, I begin to hear about what they're doing and what's going on. So here I can see this guy, Troy from GDIT or General Dynamics Mission. He's looking at my profile. Why? Is there something I'm putting out that's out there? This comes back to, I want you to be findable and attractive. And it's that first thing I teach in the course. And it's what I teach you over and over in the training is make your LinkedIn profile so you're findable, discoverable by Troy, right? In this multi-billion-dollar company, and that you're attractive. He viewed my profile. Did it hit the mark of what he was looking for, right? I don't know why Troy was looking at it. And he just looked at it 18 hours ago. Maybe it was DHS that he wanted to see. And then I can see other people down here. Let me show you how I search in here by just typing in cyber. right? So I typed in cyber into Sales Navigator. I'm just looking for people now. So I'm not going through FEMA initially. Here I'm going through all of LinkedIn's 850 million people on LinkedIn users. And now I'm going to whittle it down to the people I'm looking for. And I want to show you how you can do this as well. So I type cyber. You can see there's 1 million plus results. I know there's many more than 1 million in there. But then the next thing I want to show you is all these filters. So LinkedIn Navigator has a lot more advanced filters. The first one I want to do is over here, current company. I want to find people who say they currently work for FEMA. And I'm going to click on this. I'll type in FEMA because I know that that's actually how their company page is lined up. And I'll just hit include. And you'll see those 1 million people go down to 228 results, right? I took those people down really fast. And it's the same thing you saw earlier that I did on the other page. But now to filter this even faster, I might be able to look at what I really want to look at is their seniority level. So maybe I want to try to target mid to high level executives, not the junior people or not the worker bees necessarily, right? There's a lot of us in that role. And then there's people in closer to the buying role. So middle management and director level, and generally not the top level. But let me show you each one of these so you can kind of see how it builds. So when I click seniority level, you can see these different. There's 151 people who say they do cyber who are in senior roles. And to me, this probably means 5 years or more in a particular role. The ones I really like here, manager, director, I'm going to click on it. But I did want to show you CXO as an example. This is chief executive officer, chief finance officer. It's an unusual way of judging the seniority for an agency. So I want to see that first. Let me just see who's there because I might not reach out to them, but I might want to follow them, if that makes sense, right? If I follow, let's just take this person here, Gregory Edwards at FEMA. He's the Chief Information Security Officer, CISO. And so this person, I might not want to reach out to him directly yet because that's like the cream of the crop. He's the top person for cyber over there. But what I would want to do is maybe just follow him. So I could go over, and I want to follow him because anything he says, people down below probably should be listening. And if I meet with somebody down below and I say, hey, by the way, I heard Mr. Edwards had said this thing, they'll be like, oh yeah, we heard that too. Or I didn't even know that, right? That kind of thing shows them I'm doing my homework by listening to their boss, Mr. Edwards, when I'm meeting with direct reports or somebody else within that agency. So I might come in here and say, let me go visit that LinkedIn profile. And I go over to Mr. Edwards. Hopefully I'm not following him. And so right here, I can connect with him, but I don't because I don't know him. So I'm going to click on more and say follow. When I clicked on more and said follow, now it means everything he's posting, LinkedIn will notify me about. But I really want LinkedIn to do that. So I'm going to click on this button that says get notified about all of Mr. Edwards' posts. And so when I click on that bell notification, you can see at the bottom, you'll be notified of all new posts. Perfect. That's all I want. Now I'm following him. I'm treating him like he's Kim Kardashian, right? He's an influencer, except for he's an influencer in cybersecurity within FEMA, my target agency, if that makes sense. If that makes sense, put Kim in the chat. Or maybe you could put Mr. Edwards or influencer. You choose your own chat. Okay, so I'm still looking at CXOs. By sorting it, by filtering by CXOs, I'm finding Mr. Edwards right here. He's perfect. Now I know, okay, he's great. This is somebody I want. Here's a detailee. And this person, Satina White, is awesome. So Miss White I can look at it. She's probably coming from another agency working in here. This is perfect because if I can get in, follow her, maybe even engage or meet with her, when she goes back to the other agency, now that relationship is taking me into a new agency that I'm not at. But she is, it looks like a chief security officer, right? And so that's a good one for me to track. And as I come down, it's same thing. I don't really care about chief staff officer at the moment. I'm looking for cyber. So you can see these things. Planning section chief, I might sometimes look at, but the rest of them, they're just in disaster levels. I'm like, okay, they're less of what I'm looking for. And I don't need to show you all of them. But so you see how I chose the CXO level and filtered 228 down to really, it was one person I chose out of there. So now I'm going to do the same thing on seniority. Let me show all the filters here. So seniority under their role, I'm going to choose the directors this time. And it does the same thing for me. It filters. And now I can begin to look at this. It's like, oh, this is awesome. Mr. Hall here is the director of cybersecurity compliance division. right? That's got to be somebody worthwhile for me doing an intro call as a cyber company. We are experts in cybersecurity. If I could get in and begin to establish a relationship with Bobby Hall, then maybe I can learn more about the agency, where we can help out, what their goals are for the future, and maybe hear about opportunities that are coming down the pike, right? I tell people, when you're looking at the 7-step process for federal revenue success, most of us, unfortunately, really play in the proposal level. We hear about an opportunity that the proposal is dropping and we write it. Even when we're writing to an RFI, we're kind of writing to the proposal level if that RFI is close to the RFP drop date. Obviously, we want to move to have opportunities in our pipeline, but what I'm saying is shift all the way left to targeting. Hear about opportunities before the relationship, or through the relationship, by targeting the right people. And so if I come back in here, Mr. Hall's an ideal person like that. And then as I come down, it's interesting to see some of these people. So here's a planning analyst, section chief. Section chiefs are at a good level. They know a lot about what's going on. They're peers with a lot of these people. I don't know for sure, but I guess their rank is like GS14, GS15 type level. And so these are people who are in the know, who would be able to introduce me perhaps to other folks. So I would put Anthony on my list as I go through. And as I keep coming down, I see more of these type of people that I might want to reach out to, but none of them are saying cyber, which is what I'm looking for, right? So if you see me scrolling a little faster, director of communications, I might reach out to services branch, director of mitigation division. I don't know if that's cyber, though. That's the problem when I look at somebody like that. So I have to go begin to learn a little bit, but at least I've got a group of people. And so you can see, when you come into LinkedIn, it's got all sorts of ways to filter, but there's only a few in the government contracting world that are important to us, because the job titles are kind of weird. The company size, industry, those are weird depending on who put their profile information in. But one thing that is really helpful is this right-hand side, right? I can say that I want to find people who are second-degree connections, so that I'm seeing people who are connected to just one step away from me. And what this means is that I would be able to get an introduction. Just showing you right here, if I visit this guy's profile, I can see that I have 59 shared connections. And when I look at these shared connections, any one of these people who are my first connections potentially can introduce me to that person I was just looking at, right? And so that's a big value in LinkedIn. It provides a lot more content. I can't give you the whole Navigator training today. Let me pop back over here, close that, come back here. I'm not giving you a whole Navigator training, right? I have a whole course just on LinkedIn for having a good profile, beginning to do outreach, and beginning to develop those relationships as you demonstrate you're a SME. Sales Navigator is a whole nother world. I plan on doing training for people on this, but what I'm showing you today, and what I'll show you over the actually next couple of days, is how I do it when I use LinkedIn to find people. When I'm trying to get into an agency, I'm building a list of 100 or 200 people's names. I just showed you in 20 minutes a rapid way of going in, right? Imagine if I wasn't teaching it, if I was just taking my time to build this list. You'll see tomorrow when I go into data people, data analytics, et cetera, at the FAA, this ability to find 100 people, it's there. It just takes a little time. So hopefully you'll begin to track on that. I hope that all made sense. If it made sense, put LinkedIn rocks into the chat for me as I wrap up here. So LinkedIn rocks into the chat. And so I just want to remind you, today's training, we talked to you about getting into DHS doors, how to get into DHS doors and talk to buyers. And that all is the start of the know, liking, and trusting relationship you'll be doing with people. And so I want you to keep in mind that it all begins with visibility. Before you start the targeting and outreach phases of this, or steps of the 7-step process, make sure you look good, you're findable, and you're attractive to your ideal audience. If you're trying to reach cyber people, make sure you're attractive in a cyber way. You're talking about your competencies, your experience, et cetera, in your profile for you and your company. So if you found today's training valuable, do me a favor, put thanks in the chat. We really love to see that at the end of our trainings. Remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.